Just waiting for the coverage of the meeting to load, and then we'll begin straight away. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this cabinet meeting on the 6th of July. Certainly speaking as one of those that watched a football match last night with 3 hours sleep, wish for a relatively straightforward meeting for us all. But we'll obviously give all of the business the attention it required. So the first item is apologies for absence, and we have apologies from Councillor Brown, Councillor Varley, and Councillor Ringer, who all elsewhere. And the second item is the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of June. Were there any questions on items on those minutes or issues in respect to accuracy whatsoever? Yeah,
just I wasn't here, Mr. Chairman, so I won't be able to vote on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so 2 abstentions in terms of that. That's fine. Presume no further points of clarity. If not, then I will propose that those minutes are accepted. Seconded by Councillor Shires. And can I just take a quick vote of all of those in favour, please? Don't know. Teams meeting. Okay, good. Yes, it can be quite difficult to shut them down. Okay. Yeah, can we have a vote of those in favour, please, Harry? Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, thank you. That's unanimous bar the 2 abstentions. We have no public questions booked in, although welcome to yourselves at the back. Declarations of interest on items on the agenda and requests for dispensations. Were there any interest declarations? Presumably not. And we have no items of urgent business, which is item 5. Item 6, member questions. I presume none at this stage. And item 7 is recommendations from the overview and scrutiny committee last. Councillor Holiday, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. This was in connection with the discussion about the development of the rural position statement. It was felt that churches provided an important community role in addition to worship, and they would be worth cataloguing in addition to the other community assets. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me in which point of the action plan it related, because that was certainly what I was going to ask you this morning. So that's useful. Thank you. So in respect of this, I suppose the diocese itself might not keep records of community level activity. So it might be up to, so I'm looking at yourself, individual parochial church councils. I'm just thinking about this subsequently. Would that, I don't know, Jill, if you can offer any advice on, so basically what we're looking at here is, can we have information about the sort of non-faith activities that the church provides in the community and how they can contribute to our activity in terms of rural position statement to hand over to the successor unitary?
Yeah, that's an obviously an interesting question. I know Cromer Church obviously have an annual report, and the activities that go on are there, but that's mainly church activities and not non-church activities. What the diocese keep, I'm not sure. It's certainly a question I could put to the committee, to the committee, and see what they can do, what they could do, what has been. I don't think anything's been done on it in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can take that back and do something for that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's the starting point, isn't it? Anyway, so I think we're happy to accept the recommendation and see where we get to with that. So thank you, Councillor Holiday. Item 8 is the outturn report for 2025-2026, and Councillor Shires, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So before us, we've got the outturn report following the period 10 monitoring report, which, as everybody can see in front of us, reports positive news. I would just like to make a change to recommendation C, having spoken to section 151 officer prior, in that the surplus is proposed to be transferred to a reserve named new burdens. And obviously we know that we've got lots of wonderful directives coming from the government currently, including the government reorganisation, domestic food waste, renters' rights, and the swift turnaround of the new local plan. So I would like that just to be renamed to a new burdens reserve. That papers would obviously be changed ahead of full council, so that we've got all the information there that we need. Everything else is detailed within the report, and we are wonderfully joined today by both our Assistant Director of Finance, Dan, and our 151 officer, should anybody have any further questions on the outturn.
Brilliant. And certainly understand the reason for the amendment there to the recommendations in terms of, well, of course, every year we see changes in requirements in terms of the service provision provided by the council, but it's certainly accelerated at some pace, I would say, over the last year, and will continue to do so around local government reorganisation. Yeah, that certainly makes sense. Were there any questions on this paper from members? Councillor Holiday, go ahead.
Couple of things. One is, I see the word slippage a couple of times in connection with capital programmes. Is there a capacity issue, and are we going to be able to do all the investment we had planned before the end of our natural life?
Thank you for your question. So prior to this, I've also met with our property services manager in tandem with our 151 officer to receive some updates, and many of the things that we had been waiting to move are moving now. So I've got every confidence that we will achieve what we have set out to achieve ahead of whatever changes are coming.
Of course, there are various examples where we're waiting for movement of external bodies, individuals, etc., across the capital programme. So yes, it's often sometimes the cause of some of those delays. For instance, the North Walsham 3G pitch, etc., which is featured within the capital programme, but not possible to realise at this time. Just as the obvious example. Okay, any other points? Councillor Tulloch, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you to officers for preparing this, and I'm pleased to hear the changes that Councillor Shires is suggesting in the report to full council, so that we clearly identify the space that we've got for new burdens. That will be really helpful for us in any decision making, and for people to understand those challenges that come in down the line. So thank you for that. And I'm assuming that Councillor Shires will be proposing, so I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, and of course it's important for transparency. People need to realise we're not holding on to lots of cash, I suppose, for without any purpose. We've got a lot of expectations coming down the line, or coming at pace. To be honest with you, certainly in terms of the Renters' Rights Act and food waste and other things later on. Okay, any other questions in respect to this item? No? If not, then the recommendations amended have been proposed and seconded, and therefore can we take a vote of those in favour, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 9 is the debt recovery for 2025-2026. Councillor Shires.
Thank you. So the report is before you. Thank you to Officer Knight. So there are just a few things that I want to highlight. So our council tax write-offs are lower than the previous year. So this year will be 129,000. The prior year was 230. But the business rates is slightly higher this year. The main reasons for write-offs for the financial year 25-26 for council tax is bankruptcy or liquidation or debtor absconding, and domestic rates is the debtor went into bankruptcy or liquidation. Our council rate collection target last year was 98.2, was achieved, and we reached actually 98.34. And our non-domestic business rates target of 99.2 was not achieved, but we did reach 99.12. I would just like to take the moment to highlight the performance of the team. So we have always aimed to be in the top 25% of councils for collection, but this year, like the last financial year, we finished actually 11th for non-domestic business rate collection in the country and 14th for council tax. So that means we're in the top 3 to 4% for business rates and top 4 to 5% for council tax in the country. And in Norfolk, we are top again for collections, and in the Eastern region, we're also second for business rates and fourth for council tax out of 45 councils. So the team are continuing to perform year on year in terms of collection. That's something to be celebrated, especially when we've got some economic challenges, not only locally, regionally, but also nationally. So a huge thank you to the team for all the work that they're doing to make sure that we've got the money in our coffers to be able to do the things that we do best at Norfolk District Council.
Brilliant, thank you. And you know, I think it's really important to show as well in terms of these debt write-offs and all sorts of factors behind those, but extraordinary commitment by this team to achieve what they have. I mean, perhaps it's not necessarily what residents want to hear, that we're the best at collecting council tax, but it's obviously absolutely necessary for service provision and demonstrating how efficiently our own team are doing it, or hearing how they are compared to nationally is, well, it's outstanding. So I'm grateful for that. Were there any questions on this paper from members in the room?
Yeah, not questions, Chairman, just to acknowledge as well how the team work. They don't use big hammers to crack this. They actually do good negotiating settlements, that they resolve this in a proper and appropriate way. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. So
Yeah,
to still achieve this level and work in that way is really good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to highlight that, John. And it's obviously very important across many of these individual cases.
Yeah, and just to echo that, so I've supported lots of residents who found themselves in a tricky position, whereas previously they'd have ignored the envelopes it comes through wanting the council tax to be paid, and having that early conversation with the team has enabled further support through the financial inclusion team for many of our residents, and that's really, really important. So if anybody is struggling, it's really important to get in touch with us really early, because we can put the necessary stuff in place for people to help them through financial difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Councillor Tom,
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman, but actually businesses as well, if they contact us, we can help them. Often they go off on their own or not sure what to do. The team here are really good at supporting. Thank you.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah. On both fronts in terms of domestic and non-domestic. It's something we obviously reflect on pretty constantly, I would say, and certainly have to do so around the statutory process that we undertake. But achievements more widely across the council, certainly here. Okay, any other points? If not, the recommendations that are set out on the front sheet, which are recommendations to full council, have been proposed. Can I'll second those. And can we take a vote of all those in favour, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Item 10 is the housing budgets for 2026-2027. Councillor Boyle, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. in this item, we're looking at claiming 20% of the additional income raised from the 200% council tax charge for second homes. NNDC will use the additional income to mitigate the potential impact of high levels of second homes and also to help tackle homelessness and support the building of more affordable homes and for local households. So it's money that we use across the board very wisely. The details of the particular projects are within the paper, and the recommendation is that the Cabinet agree to the proposed use of the additional income for second homes council tax to fund the projects in this report. So, thank you. Any questions?
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Ball. And obviously the collection of the premium, which is some subject, well, entirely subject to the negotiation that we carry out annually with the County Council. We wouldn't be collecting it, I think, for the relatively minimum amount we're lawfully entitled to in respect of the legislation, which I think was lacking in terms of the understanding that this was taken due to a housing pressure, but it's in fact more of it can be spent on policing and social care and other such service areas. I can't think exactly what proportion of the pound we get at the moment. It's something like 7p. Yeah, 7p in every pound of council tax. So that, of course, was the proportion, the second homes premium we would be entitled to as well. So we are seeing real impacts of the use of this revenue in helping families who are impacted by homelessness. And I think that's certainly been seen already and certainly through the reduction in certain uses of temporary accommodation, which has certainly been a crisis point nationally. So really welcome all of the recommendations within this paper, but happy to see questions around it. Councillor Holiday, go ahead.
Totally brilliant paper and totally endorse the direction of travel. Just wanted to emphasise the fact that a lot of the money comes from quite a small area in the patch, and whether there's a priority given to those areas when considering the spend. Thank you.
Not at all, because we've got to prioritise spend on impact. And you know, you're obviously referring to the sort of west of the district, but I believe the greatest quantum of second homes still in Sheringham. I think in terms of the total number, followed by Cromer. But in terms of the proportions, obviously you've got villages such as Morstan. You know, it's a very high percentage of the total properties, but we've got to realise the greatest opportunities to achieve the results, and that's for residents across the district in terms of the provisions and services that we provide. So certainly it could be someone theoretically from Morstan that benefits from some of this investment, but perhaps they won't benefit from it directly in Morstan. It might be somewhere else, you know, across the district in terms of temporary provision. But yeah, certainly longer term, we hope to see positive impact on everyone because of the reduction of this housing crisis and what this revenue has achieved on that front. But yeah, I certainly get where you're coming from in terms of a sort of prioritization of spend on a geographic basis, but I would say it's probably not possible. But that said, we do pursue opportunities around the community housing trusts and those wonderful organisations that of course exist and in some cases have existed for some time. We've wanted to support their work further. Yep. Councillor Shiers, go ahead.
Yeah, so we can see the benefits of the second homes premium. So just touching back on the outturn report on page 21 under 3.8, you can see how we've used some of our portion of the second homes premium money that we've collected to offset the shortfall in the DWP's provision for accommodation. So you can really see the benefit overall. So it's across the organisation. So a huge thank you to the housing team, and the very small team that you've got dealing with temporary accommodation, who are really working to bring the cost down. And it's really important that we continue to make sure that those families who find themselves displaced due to homelessness are put in a place where they're able to thrive, because they're connected to everything that they need to get to recover from the impacts of homelessness, which are far reaching across many years once they do secure full-time accommodation.
Yeah. I think it's probably also worth highlighting, we've seen a very modest decrease in the total number of second homes in over the course of the first year of the implementation of the premium. It was around 1%. Whether we see any further reduction, of course, we'll monitor at the next opportunity to do so. But yeah, not a significant reduction at all, which I think was portrayed as likely by some, albeit obviously we know this is a very significant proportion of our housing stock across the district, which I would argue is a proliferation of the numbers. But yeah, it's achieved more than just the premium. So did you indicate as well, John? Did I miss your hand? No, sorry, I might have imagined it. Councillor Withington, go ahead.
Thank you. I think it's worth referring back to a point we made to do with the outturn report as well, that we have got that very holistic approach here at the council, and the work that the teams are doing as well on preventing homelessness is helping to support that work as well, because as you quite rightly said, Councillor Showers, if we can get the financial inclusion officers in with people earlier, we can reduce that risk of homelessness as well. So as well as having our temporary accommodation, we need to reduce the numbers of people that are coming up for that. So that's, I'm very proud of this council for that holistic approach that they're taking and preventing homelessness as much as they are in tackling it when we face it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Councillor.
So I think what's also for me important here is we're collecting this second homes council tax. We're clearly identifying how much we're keeping, and we're displaying where it's going and the benefit that it's bringing. And I think that's very clear. And I think people need to know that, we're where we use their money, and we're being very clear on this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, okay. Well, thank you for filling out for us, Councillor Boyle. And the recommendation is set out on the front sheet, which is in respect of the use of the revenue. Can I have a second, please? Seconded by Councillor Withington, and all of those in favour. That's unanimous, thank you. So item 11 is the coastal adaptation pilot in respect to extending the delivery of Coastwise. Councillor Blathwayt, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. The paper sets out the case, I think, very well. I think this is a vote of confidence in this council's use of government funding for coastal erosion. We've had Pathfinder, we've had the CTAP, and now we've got CAP. And I think this is an excellent continuation of outstanding work of national importance and international importance. And I hope everybody will agree that we need to vote for this. And I thank the present government for continuing with the funding. I feel that if CTAP had come to an end, we would have be like breaking up the Beatles straight after Sergeant Pepper, and we'd miss out on a White Album. So I hope you vote for this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Blathwayt, and certainly doesn't require a lot of brain power this Monday morning to determine this is really the only logical option. It's certainly a no-brainer. So thank you for the continued work of all of the officers and of course the communities that are interacting with Coastwise the Coastlines Initiative continues to be useful both here, but also on a national level. Were there any questions on this paper, please? Councillor Toy.
No, just to comment again, Mr. Chairman, just to thank officers for the work they do, for keeping us at the forefront, which it's not about being at the front and winning, it's actually about delivering the best options for our residents and for protecting our coastal. So to be at the forefront and have that opportunity for our residents, I really thank them for delivering that for us. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Councillor Shives, go ahead.
Just for a point of clarity, I'm going to look to our 151 officer now. We've used reserves. Do we know which reserve the 500,000 would come from?
If we are to use, I'm not aware which reserve we may have to borrow for capital purposes rather than using reserves. I do understand that a joint application has been made with several of the members of the RFCC who've also got been offered access to the CAP programme, and hopefully that joined up approach will be successful and we won't need to fund the match funding ourselves.
Okay. Any further points?
No, I was proposing.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, thank you. That was going to be my next question. So, yeah, seconded by Councillor Toy. In respect to the recommendations sent out in the paper, can I have a vote of all those in favour, please? And that's unanimous again. Item 12 is the local plan review and the scoping consultation. So, given Councillor Andrew Brown's absence today, Councillor John Toy is introducing this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you've rightly said, I've got something here from Councillor Brown and a few bits I've added on myself at the end. So first, it's from Councillor Brown. Firstly, I would like to thank officers for preparing this detailed report. The replacement of our 2008 core strategy local plan last December with the present day local plan for the 2024-2040 period was conditional on a review of the current plan being commenced by the 30th of June this year. I can confirm that as required, the notice of intention to commence a new local plan has been achieved. We need to progress to the next stage by confirming that our minimum housing requirement numbers are going to be so a scoping report. Let me start again, apologies. We need to progress to the next stage by confirming that our minimum housing requirement numbers are going to be so a scoping report is needed to consult the public. Need to carry out environmental assessments and decide what will be included in the next plan. The current plan took 8 years to prepare, but government now expects that the new review will take 30 months. In future, plans are expected to be reviewed every 5 years. The expectation is that the compulsory strict end-to-end framework with its 3 gateway system, early scoping and fewer opportunities for consultation will enable more efficiency in the process. There is a concern that just 2 consultations will damage local consensus, building and traditional democracy associated with plan making in previous versions. Details of the various stages of the new plan are outlined in section 2.6 on page 117 of the hard copy agenda before you. The plan review is obviously very challenging in terms of finding suitably qualified staff, which we are addressing with a recruitment drive and use of technology by our planning department to expedite the plan making process to satisfy targets in a timely manner. The first call for sites consultation was launched on the 1st of June and ends on the 13th of July. And there will be further one to run concurrently with the public consultation on policy amendments from the 20th of July to the 31st of August. I'm in support of the recommendations 1 and 2, but cannot propose it due to absence, obviously. And I'd like to add some further comments, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Just to say that the paper lays out the process for reviewing and delivering a local plan as required. The reason for recommendation in this paper is to maintain an up-to-date local plan. Chapter 4 of Appendix A, the district overview, gives information on the district with reference to local, regional and national data. Keeping our plan up to date will ensure that we deliver a plan that is suitable and fit for our district. Acknowledging that 60% of our population live outside of our towns and 84% of small businesses is just a couple of examples which having a plan may swing those, and we need to be cognizant of those details that are in there. But I am happy to take the recommendation and on behalf of Councillor Brown, first, as done in 1 and 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toy. Thank you for introducing us to this item. So obviously, this is in line with government requirements, as Councillor Toy said, and a relatively standardised approach, of course, reflective of local distinctiveness, but it's what you would expect to see elsewhere as well. Were there any points, Christopher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got one or two questions, but a number of points to make. I mean, the public need to understand what an appalling impact this is going to have on North Norfolk. As I understand it, the government's now pushing a policy to make sure that we build 900 odd houses a year, which is utterly unachievable and completely undesirable. And the real irony of this is we've got a new Prime Minister coming in who's telling us that devolution is going to solve all of our problems. Yet here we have a government telling us how many houses we've got to build, not coming up with it ourselves. So, I mean, also the question I would have is, we're doing this in parallel with local government reform. Now, we already know that local government reform is going to put a huge amount of pressure on our staff to achieve everything. So that, and to do this in parallel, to do something which the last one, as Councillor Toy told us, took 8 years to achieve. We're now going to do this in less than 3. And first question I have, is that actually achievable from the staffing point of view?
I can start, and then if officers want to chip in because they're closer to the subject than me. But with the next paper we've got coming along and how we're reorganising and making some of the what we deliver as more agile, I think there is a possibility. But in my comments that you'll see in the next one, I acknowledge that there is a lot going on, and that's why it's important that we make that the change of the committee in the next paper important. Yes, it is a challenge. But you'll see in the paper, I think it was at 5.1, which was a question that threw me for a moment when I saw it. Just bear with me a second. Let's shifted this one. It said that it could be done within current resources, but we're recruiting. But I understand that was done at the last full council, that was approved. So because that did throw me because I wasn't at the last full council. So we are resourcing for it, and I think there's a possibility. But I don't know if officers wish to add to that at all. About whether we feel it's doable. Thank you.
Mr. Gleeson, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the new 30-month timeline that's obviously nationally set is challenging, but quite clearly we've published how it is we intend to achieve that. Interestingly, we are actually recruiting to 2 new posts that's just been touched on both today and tomorrow, with a good calibre of submissions, I'm glad to say. And yeah, I mean, the 30 months is set nationally. It's something that we are looking to achieve. It is a challenge, no two ways about it. I don't think a plan nationally has been delivered in 30 months. But then when you have a look at how this is going to be play out in the future, that there are, it's a new process effectively. So there are consolidated times at which the wider public are engaged, and the new processes need to bed in on a national level. But the timescales and the timetable that we have set out, yes, with the right resource, is intended to be deliverable.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, for someone who sits on those committees as well, many of the new items that we've got in the plan that's just been approved, which took 8 years to deliver, actually will fit in the new plan, I believe, with very little adjustment. So much of the work may well be already in place. But that will be for the working party to work through. But yeah, that would be my interpretation.
Certainly, politically, I agree with what
absolutely
you've said. In I think every point in terms of this, I share those concerns entirely. Would also question whether doing all of these plans elsewhere across the country as well. It's not just ourselves. We're all actually translate into the housing growth that was previously set out as required, because plans don't deliver bricks and mortar. We know possibly what we really need is a new generation of council housing to address the needs of the population. That's not necessarily set out here, of course, because that isn't government policy at this point in time. So there's all sorts of issues in terms of capacity of the construction sector, environmental constraints on land, and all sorts of things to contend with. But it's certainly offloading the pressure onto local government initially in terms of producing these plans, but certainly in communities in terms of supplying the land. I'm concerned as well that residents would think, well, haven't you just done this? Why are you still talking? It's confusing that we're doing it again, really. So, but of course, as we've heard, it's what we're absolutely required to do. Councillor Shites, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm going to completely agree with your summary, Councillor Cushing, which we do on occasion have agreement, if not over the biscuit choice that we enjoy too. So I'm thinking particularly as I represent North Walsham and the challenges we've got there with approximately 2,500 new homes, and we have services which are massively under demand, even our GP surgeries, which is not because we don't have enough GPs there, it's because of the amount of appointments that is needed for people who are aging or who have complex health conditions. So it's multifaceted. But if you look on page 33 of the report, page 157 of the actual agenda pack, where it talks about the threats, I think the threats really do articulate everything that everybody's concerned about. But I just wanted to pull out of there, and I don't know if Councillor Holiday had planned on speaking about the water issues, having had Anglian Water into review and scrutiny committee multiple times, specifically about connected to the sewerage network, which is something that everybody tends to understand because everybody does flush their own toilet and know when things go wrong. But we have more things that we need to deal with as a rural area than potentially most of the metropolitan boroughs, for example. And I think we really do have a lack of understanding. And I've said it countless times, central government do not understand North Norfolk and the issues that we face due to rurality. It is a very beautiful place to live, a very beautiful place to be, but that doesn't come with some challenge. We've had to fight for banking hubs so people can access their own banking, things like that, which you don't tend to get in the larger areas. So if there is one request, I would love to think that government sit and watch our meetings. The one request would be that rural communities are looked at for the challenges they face outside of a blanket approach and how we deal with our housing demand. And if this was a policy that said it was only going to be social and affordable housing, we'd all be sat here saying, let's try and make this happen, and communities would agree. But when our local communities are being outpriced with the private housing that's built, it's not affordable. I think it's harder for us to deliver a message of positivity to our residents and say it's okay that field's going, that you see the farmers farming because we've got housing coming that you're never going to afford. It's a really sickening state of affairs, unfortunately.
Certainly. Councillor Livingston, go ahead.
This is a bit of a technical question. Sorry, David, to do this on a Monday morning. So within those targets, if we do end up talking about affordable housing and social housing, a lot of the ways that we're having to bring it forward in North Norfolk is through exception sites. Am I right that when we bring exception sites forward, they don't count within our housing targets? Are they like windfall?
Well, they count towards the 5-year land supply. Yeah. Housing supply, don't they?
Yeah, they are, in effect, they're windfall sites, so they're not allocated as such. But they do count towards the total figures.
Okay. Because otherwise, I think that's how a lot of our housing will possibly come forward. And it would be difficult and remiss of us if it didn't end up as part of that allocation or the target, the final figures.
Absolutely. The target figure, yes, it does count towards that.
It does. Sorry, Councillor Cushing, you wanted to come back.
If I may, just a technical question, actually on the paper itself. On page 143, it talks about the 7 main settlements, but Sheringham's not on that list, so I just wondered why it wasn't on the list.
No. Yeah, it's just a simple omission, but thank you for.
I think there are about 7,000 people living in Sheringham Park.
Yeah, no, we haven't forgotten them, don't worry. Yeah. Councillor Holiday, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First of all, how great a reach will this consultation have? Because if we recall, the input from the public is going to be much more limited now in local plans, and if this is one of their chances to contribute. So how many people do we expect this consultation to be responded by?
Yeah, so quite obviously the consultations in the future will be heavily publicised on social media, using as many of the methods that we have at our disposal. It's difficult to put a number on how many people are going to respond to that, but any means that we have available whereby we can promote it, be it through the magazines that this organisation produces, be it social media, working with our comms team, we'll be publicising this as heavily as we can. But it's hard to quantify how many people are going to be responding.
I guess my point was rather that, this has to be circulated as widely as possible. Quite a lot of people aren't on social media, and there may not be the time frame to allow for the publication in our magazines and things like that. So I'd be worried that a second of the population wouldn't have a chance to engage with it.
Yeah, I suppose there's an increasing risk of that generally, just in terms of the quantum of consultations that have been carried out on this front, really, in terms of sort of almost becoming blind to the process, having had so much of it through to concurrent local plan processes. So obviously this is a fairly formulaic stage, isn't it? It's an early stage in terms of procedures, in terms of obviously we've got consultations elsewhere in the process. So you want to come in on that?
Yeah, thank you. It does say at 113 in the appendix, I think it is, that if you have a difficulty submitting a response, obviously we need to make sure we get that information to them through all the, not just social media, but all the other channels that are open, and that please contact us at the planning policy, so people can write and ask for different ways to access. That's on page 126.
Right, I'm still concerned because the time frame is quite short, and that we've got some really important questions in here that we want people's views on, and it's just not going to reach a large percentage. I mean, I totally pick up on the infrastructure point. I think there's probably not quite enough emphasis on infrastructure in this scoping document, because that's really important: water, electricity, and mobile. And the final point about the Norfolk Coast National Landscape, you're offering us an option to build significant developments there, which is against the NPPF, and I'm a little bit surprised that's being offered as a possibility. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the paper before you outlines the steps this authority needs to take over the next 30 months to be compliant with the government expectations and guidance. It is an academic process in that the timeframe over which development is proposed is many years into the future. The biggest constraint to delivering against the target numbers of houses, which are significantly increased from previous levels of performance and the target of the previous government, is not deliverable in North Norfolk. You do not have sufficient water, you do not have sufficient water treatment capacity, you do not have sufficient electricity. The electricity that comes into this district in increasing volumes is not available in Norfolk. It is on It is going to be on overhead power lines that go to London and the southeast. There isn't an answer in this paper that addresses the capacity issues for infrastructure in this district. And I think that has to be one of the key messages or conclusions that come from this process. I don't think we can argue against the numbers per se. They're target numbers which government is asking us to meet. The practical reality of delivering this quantum of development in this district over a sustained period of time is not going to be realised. And I think we have to deliver that message back to government, because I don't think it's economically going to stack up. And we are having conversations with developers at the present time that are struggling to be able to viably deliver schemes which are already in your adopted plan. And unless that gap is closed, this is an academic discussion and is something that we need to engage with, but I don't believe is going to impact and become a reality. And I think there needs to be a more realistic assessment of what can be delivered in this district with the infrastructure that we currently have and the need for further investment in infrastructure into the future, because you aren't going to achieve this level of development.
So that's what, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously I agree with what Steve said. Also on top of that, a lot of our area is protected landscape. And I speak as one whose ward is largely protected landscape, but also zone 3 flood risk, which means that villages become moribund. There cannot be any building. There's no influx of young people. So we are doomed to peter out and become retirement ghettos. And so I think that also should be thrown into the argument.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we can't obviously debate all that is to emerge here across the board. There are many sites that will have their own individual constraints, but you know, I agree with what everyone said. You know, we're likely to see certainly cases where utility companies object as well to potential allocations due to the lack of available infrastructure. Certainly got the environmental constraints, and I'm increasingly concerned about those. I've reflected on that in my own patch as well. And yeah, certainly I think a lot of people will be concerned at the scale of growth we are being asked to achieve, and whether that's realistic, I'm not sure it is. But in terms of the consultation arrangements, we're being pushed to move at pace. I'm not sure we could take the approach justifiably of sending letter to everyone to inform this process. We've got to carry our best endeavours to get people responding to the consultation realistically. So sorry.
I think you all have roles as local elected representatives to take this message to your town and parish councils. I think they are advocates for your communities. I don't see the world in quite the way that Councillor Blathwaite described, if I may. Your settlement hierarchy and the strategy that you've adopted seeks to concentrate large-scale development in key locations, so that hopefully those infrastructure investments that are required are of a scale and magnitude that allows viability to be established. I think what we see is that because those schemes are so large, if there isn't a commitment by the utility companies to work with us and work with developers to make that investment, we then see small scale development which is unplanned, which creates unintended consequences and pressures in small communities where an extra 3, 4 or 5 properties that come forward in an unplanned way then place an unacceptable burden, and we get issues with surface water drainage or wastewater backup or low water pressure and those sort of things. And that's why a plan is important. I don't know how realistic it is to promote engagement or set a target for a number of responses that you would want to receive from individuals. I'm not saying individuals don't have the opportunity to comment. That's democracy, and that's very important that people with a level of understanding and knowledge share their hopes and fears through the preparation of this plan. But I do think the quality of the comments might be strengthened through town and parish councils rather than and having 50 quality submissions or representations rather than 300, 400, 500 people who just say, I disagree with a large number of new homes, or it's going to be a home and field that is, over my back fence or something. The quality of the submissions, the decisions that the officers will give weight to and assess and bring back to you are going to be ones which have the ability to deliver real change. And if that is about lobbying Anglian Water in terms of their current wastewater strategy or treatment capacity, if it is around influencing UK power networks to strengthen the resilience of our existing local distribution network, because that's where the constraint is. It's not about the power that's coming offshore. There's super highways. The cables that are taking this through this district are huge, but we can't use that money here, can't use that capacity here. It's like being on a motorway or having a motorway go through your region, but no junction to connect or get on and off. And so it's those comments that I think we need to hear as this council and in any new unitary council, so that we have a stronger argument, a stronger evidence-based rationale for trying to negotiate better outcomes for utilities. Because without doing that, I fear that the development that we've proposed will not be delivered, let alone that next quantum, which takes us from 500 houses to 930 houses. It's a year. That's just not realistic, in my view.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's really important that we as members take it out. It's a drive that I've tried to put into the business thing. And whilst I mentioned that, we as councillors know where those businesses are, and they have an opportunity to input as well, because they may see an opportunity where an area is growing to actually grow their business, which will put more strain on the infrastructure. So we do need their input as well. And those that I've been visiting, I've been encouraging that, but I would encourage all members to talk to visitors so that their plan kind of becomes part of our plan. So that we support these new residents by giving them employment as well. But we need all that input. But I think councillors are the best people to take that out there. And we really do have a role to play in this, given the timescales.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I totally agree with that, but I don't think the crisis about infrastructure comes out strongly enough in this documentation. I think people won't be grasping it as they review the consultation questions. They won't be seeing it through the right lens. And that's what concerns me. People will be looking at it thinking everything's absolutely fine, because it isn't highlighted sufficiently. That's my worry. Thank you.
Mr. Gleeson, I don't think you could say anything in response to that.
Yeah, quite obviously the evidence base that's being commissioned currently and all of the engagement with the statutory undertakers on key infrastructure matters is ongoing. If it's felt that the infrastructure section doesn't go quite far enough, that is something that we can take away and improve upon, if members so agree, if that is the feeling in the room. But just to give assurance, and to the point that the Chief Exec made a moment ago, that engagement with the key statutory infrastructure providers is ongoing, and the evidence base that's been commissioned by this organisation alongside others obviously is going to be feed into this particular process, just to give some reassurance.
Okay. Well, members, you've heard that. Is there any anything you wish to add in respect of changes or amendments?
Yeah, I think it's, if officers are prepared to have a look to see if that can be just highlighted a bit more so that people can place comments. I don't see any harm in doing that. And so I'm happy to if that needs a proposal for that change, I'm happy to do that. So that they look at it and decide, whether we can do anything
Yeah.
that makes it appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that acceptable to yourselves? Yeah.
Yes, Chair.
Great, thank you. Okay, then, well, let's move on from there. So, the recommendations were proposed, I believe, by councillor Toy, earlier on in the discussion. I think we had a little while on this. Is that seconded by councillor Shires? And can I take a vote of all those, in favour, please? Yeah, that's, unanimous. Item 13 is the local plan review governance, arrangements, and also over to yourself, councillor Toy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll start with Councillor Brown's comments first. I'd like to thank the Assistant Director for bringing this report, and also the Development Manager for his work on amending our constitution to reflect the proposed changes. Given the new government requirements to reduce the time it takes to review our new local plan, we will need to make decisions more efficiently with fewer meetings, and to principally concentrate on local plan business. The Planning Policy Built Heritage Working Party used to consider a myriad of issues affecting the service delivery of the planning department, including but not limited to local plan issues and proposals. This report seeks to replace the Planning Policy Built Heritage Working Party and create a local plan and conservation task group. Give it more decision-making power, instead of reporting everything to Cabinet, to concentrate on local plan progression, to meet the 30-month deadline prescribed by the government. Referring to section 210 on page 181 of the hard copy agenda, I would invite the Assistant Director to provide some guidance on how and when to review our existing neighbourhood plans, although I recognise the constraints on government funding in the last spending review may prevent necessary reviews from happening. Some guidance on the risks to town and parish councils consequent upon perceiving delay or neglect in this respect would be appreciated. Corpusty and Saxford Neighbourhood Plan was adopted in April 2019 as our first, and has not been reviewed because of the district local plan taking until December to be adopted. The new local plan, as per the previous item 12, clearly overreaches the lifespan of this authority beyond April 2028, when NNDC will no longer exist. And I assume that whatever stage our draft local plan reaches in 2028, that its validity as an incomplete process will transfer to its successor authority and will not be compromised in any way. What assurances can the Assistant Director give us today in this respect? And in respect of the conservation area appraisals referred to in terms of reference on page 185, we had a conservation appraisal of the Glaven Valley as a rural and village designated area at the Planning Policy Built Heritage Working Party between 2020 and 22-23. Will that work be acceptable as it stands, or will a further review be necessary to update the draft plan? It then goes on to say, I'm in support of the recommendations 1 to 5 on page 183, 184 of the agenda. Just before I let officers answer the questions, I'll just put in here that given the previous paper and tight timescales, this proposal will make the decision process quicker, as it will focus on the key objectives to deliver a new plan. This is a Cabinet working party, and as laid out on page 186 in the terms of reference, Cabinet has the right to discharge its delegated decisions. Given that LGR, devolution and additional work streams as a Cabinet member, I believe this is a prudent delegation. I'm happy to propose the recommendations. Did you manage to catch the questions? Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The questions in order as far as I've jotted them down. So neighbourhood plans, absolutely. Those communities with neighbourhood plans have actually been written to relatively recently with regards to how they can take those forward. But to your point with regards to government funding being available, quite obviously there's no government funding available for new neighbourhood plans moving forwards, but each of the communities have been written to with how it is that they should take those forward. The second point about the local plan, obviously 30 months time horizon, that transcends that period moving into that new East Norfolk local authority. It's fair to say that all of the existing districts have been working together with regards to timelines, co-commissioning, evidence-based documents where appropriate. And each organisation, you know, as we sit here today with the relevant authority that we have, are progressing the plans individually. But the quick answer to your question is yes, those plans will obviously then move into the new authority. And it's quite obviously it's up to that new local planning authority to make decisions from that moment forwards.
Absolutely, thank you.
And sorry, no conservation area appraisals. I think it was the Glaven Valley that you mentioned. And there are a number of these. Quite obviously, they are, you know, those that are in situ are taken forward as they exist. With regards to that particular one and whether or not it requires a review, honestly can't tell you hand on heart, but we can have a look at those and make sure that as appropriate, they are reviewed at the relevant time. But I must say that one is relatively up to date. But happy to take that away and have a look at that particular point.
That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Certainly agree with
Yeah.
the response as well in respect to the Glaven Valley conservation. Trying to think of the terminology now. What are the plans called? The monitoring documents for the conservation areas, appraisals. Yeah, and yeah, it was quite recently done, but we've obviously set out how we would achieve any discussions over updates and neighbourhood plans within here as well. Certainly it's disappointing in terms of the government changes in funding for that was available for parish and town councils. Still feel it plays a valuable role, slightly conflicting with some of their earlier statements in respect to the role of neighbourhood planning as well. But yeah, this is certainly in terms of what we're doing in line with government requirements. And as before, a lot of work's been done already at this early stage. Was there any questions in respect of the governance arrangements here? Obviously, you know, it's a significant change as well in terms of how we've been looking at this compared to previously, which members obviously will have to get their head around. We've already seen a reduction in numbers at the development committee as well, in line with other government changes, unrelated but connected. Is there any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Shires.
Yeah. So just so I understand the parts of the constitution that are going to be enacted, what we're doing is we're delegating the decision to that working group. So it wouldn't come to cabinet for sign off. It would just go straight to full council. Yeah. Okay. That's all I wanted to check. So we wouldn't expect to see any of this information. It would just go straight from working group and appear on the full council. But because the portfolio holder would be chairing the meeting, it's the delegation through him. Okay, that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's right. So certainly subject to that function for full council. Go ahead.
And whilst it's for you to announce, obviously later on, but obviously we've got the chair is on the cabinet. I intend to be on that committee as well to make sure that we they cover some of the infrastructure stuff and support for businesses as well. So, you know, we've already got a significant number of cabinet people on there. And of course, people can attend the meetings. They are public meetings. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. John, did you propose the recommendations?
Just to be clear, yes, I do propose the recommendations.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, were there just final opportunity, any questions? If not, I'm happy to second these recommendations. Can we take a vote of all of those in favour, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 14 is delegated decisions for January 2026 onwards. These are to note in line with obligations set out in the Constitution. Are there any questions on either of these items in respect of requirements for clarity? If not, we can note that report and move on to item 15, which is the Merriman's Bowls Club options. Councillor Shires. Oh, and I should say it's worth pointing out there is an exempt appendices for this paper. We can possibly seek to avoid discussing, but obviously if it's required by members, we can close the meeting and discuss as required. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So members will remember that this has been on our radar for quite some time. So it's really positive to be able to report that we have made some progress, especially when we've got the face of local government reorganisation straight in front of us. So the recommendation is for option 2, which has my full support. But as we have Officer Creasy in the room who has worked tirelessly on this, I'm very happy to hand over to you to give further introduction because I would not want to steal that from you.
Thank you, Lucy. Yeah, as Lucy says, this is a long-standing matter, and this recommendation seeks to find a solution for that. The proposal, option 2 in the report, is to dispose of the site to the Merriman's Bowls Club, inclusive of the Merriman's Putting Green site. This option removes taxpayer liability for maintenance and other costs at the site while protecting the existing community and business use that's at the site there as well. Yeah, obviously the other options explored were redevelopment, which is seen as too costly with a weak return, and renewal of the existing lease, which maintains the high costs for the council to maintain and upkeep the site. So yeah, option 2 to dispose is recommended. The only other thing I'd like to say is to thank the Bowls Club and Putting Green operator for working constructively with us over the course of this to find hopefully a solution.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Milo. So, yeah, certainly we've discussed this for some time to come, but feel this is the right outcome to secure the operation of this site for the long term. And that's obviously the conclusion that we've come to in preparing this item for the agenda and following discussions with the Merriman's Bowls Club. Of course, it was subject to a question at full council, or at least an answer at full council last time in respect of Kramer Properties, and whether we were having discussions in respect of any of those. So this is possibly the first of such cases, albeit this one goes back before local government reorganisation in terms of the difficulties in addressing the deterioration of the building. Christopher, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The question I have actually refers to the purple papers, but I won't refer to any information in there. But I'm surprised if we look at the purple papers, paragraph 1.1.3, that information is not in the public realm. That might be one for the monitoring officer. If you go to page on the written agenda, page 211, and on the first page there you've got paragraph 113. The first piece of information that I thought that would have been in the public realm. I'm surprised it's not.
Sorry.
I don't know whether it's there for context to make sense of the whole report. On the face of it in itself, it might be something that could be in the public domain, unless you or Milo have got an issue with that. But I think it's in the, I would assume it's in the private papers for context.
That information is already in the public domain as seen in the outturn report.
It refers to being in the existing budget, so I thought that ought to be, I don't see. If you're looking at an option, the principle is if the council is spending public money on something, that money should be in the open so we can see what it is. Not necessarily saying it's a wrong decision, just saying I think at the point of principle, it should be in the open domain.
So I think it is provided for context, as the monitoring officer has stated. If it is a budget that's previously been approved, that sets a ceiling, if you excuse the pun, in terms of the relationship to this specific item. But it's a cost envelope that's established. But obviously, if we go through a procurement process, we don't want to compromise that process by continually restating that that's the budget for the project, I think. So I think if it has been identified as a capital expenditure within the budget, this statement or in this paragraph is provided for context in terms of the decision that is set before you today, in terms of how that plays out with the lease. It doesn't substitute, for the record, the need for there to be a business case or an understanding of the matters which pertain to the decision. But here we have a failing asset, so something has to be done.
Brilliant. Okay.
Sorry, and then the place where it is relevant is in the purple papers under 2.2.4.5. So that's why it was included in the initial as an introductory, and then it's relevant further on. So it is noted in there.
Okay. Were there any other questions in respect of this item? And just say once again, really welcome the work that well, you've committed to for quite a long time to get this over the line, so thank you to our officers. Okay, so we have recommendations set out and in the front sheet of the paper. Were you presumably happy to propose those and seconded by Councillor Toy? Can we take a vote of all of those over, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 16 is Chroma film location proposal. This is also subject to some confidential information, and I would suggest on this occasion we probably do close the meeting to discuss that. So in respect of that, I would propose that we close the meeting under relevant section as set out. In fact, under item 17, under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act. Can I get that seconded, please? Yeah, and a vote of all of those in favour. Brilliant. Okay, so if we close them. Okay, thank you. And we are just here to deal with the continuation of the item 15 on the cabinet agenda, which was in respect of Cramer film location proposals. Sorry?
16? I got it's 18.
Sorry, yes, you are correct. I
Yeah.
I was wrong about that. Item
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Apologies. And we simply need to agree our action in respect of that, having had to have the discussion in closed session due to commercial sensitivity. And I propose that the cabinet approves the council's in-kind and financial support for the film production as detailed within the report. And that's seconded by Councillor Shires. And I take a vote of all of those in favour, please. Yeah? That's fantastic. So that's unanimous. And there being no further business, we can close the meeting and thank you all for your attendance.